Hello and greetings of peace. Would you like to attract abundance into your life? Have you ever experienced effortless success? How would elevating your leadership impact your personal and professional life? Did you know that you can be anti-abundance? You can repel abundance, drive it away? How is that possible? You block abundance by engaging in this hidden evil, which is the topic of our discussion today. Bureaucratic or administrative evil. What is bureaucratic evil? Bureaucracy is a system in an organization or a large institution that allows for uniformity or control over the institution. Evil as bureaucracy is the perfect example of how following the rules strictly can lead to moral catastrophes. Then, who's the culprit? Where and when does it manifest? Bureaucratic evil manifests as organizational members perpetrate hideous violations while fulfilling their daily duties as law-abiding, responsible citizens. See, the key here is that this evil is masked or hidden. So it's hidden from those that participate in it. So they don't see themselves as committing anything evil. They see themselves as just following the rules and inadvertently inflict pain and suffering onto others. Interesting, right? The 20th century has been the bloodiest era because of technology, right? It's created an effective killing machine or machines like airplanes, tanks, and chemical warfare and nuclear weapons. And it's so easy to commit a crime or perpetrate evil just by following orders. What's more puzzling or enigmatic is our ability to dissociate ourselves from this specific evil. So how do we dissociate ourselves from this evil, and why? First, it's because of our unwillingness to take responsibility for our intentional actions. I remember having a conversation with a client about a dreadful feeling she had, and so a part of the discussion she kept repeating the possibility of psychological innocence of the perpetrator, which is possible, right? Sometimes you do things that you're just due to lack of a solid moral compass or thoughtlessness, like you're just not being mindful. And then when it came to talking about the victims, she was talking about their choice to suffer or not, depending on how they are dealing with whatever harm that befalls them. And that's an interesting discussion because it kind of went from how does the perpetrator take responsibility for their actions to how is the victim willing or not willing to react or respond. While you can't really make conclusions about anything, it's just an interesting discussion how the emphasis is moved from the perpetrator to the victim's choice. So it was interesting for me. this whole idea of being able to distance ourselves from what's happening, from things that we are not willing to face. So number 2, how do we distance ourselves from this evil? First, we said by our unwillingness to take responsibility. Second thing is leaving or relegating ethical values to personal discretions, rather than treating them as a bedrock foundation for society. And that's something that has occurred recently. I guess in the last century, that it's ethical values are like open for discussion. They're not like set foundations for society. And then also Freudian psychology, and there's an article journal by Adams and Balfour where they talk about this whole idea of distancing ourselves from evil. They talk about how Freudian psychology labeled guilt as a dysfunctional, incapacitating feeling, and shame, which is its social equivalent, as not being productive or healthy in guiding our decisions or actions, which is a major change. According to Adams and Balfour, they see guilt and shame as sentinels of evil. It's almost like giveaway signs. While they can be, sometimes you can have unfounded guilt or shame, right? And that can hold us back. But then there are times when it's like, okay, it's an alarm system going off saying, well, maybe you shouldn't do this thing. Maybe it's not right for you to do this thing. If it feels in any way like uncomfortable, then maybe it's time to stop and rethink and reflect and pause and look at your motivation. Finally, our ability or our willingness to dissociate from this evil is a reflection of our willingness or our ability to lead from authenticity, whether we are willing to surrender or subdue the shadows that we face in our everyday life. So what's an interesting or a good example of bureaucratic evil? The Stanford prison experiment is a great example of how administrative evil can manifest. So this happened in the 1970s. A group of social scientists led by Zimbardo created a mock prison in the psychology department of the university, and they had volunteers that took part. Some of them were assigned as guards, the others were prisoners. And what Zimbardo found was shocking. Some of the guards that labeled themselves as pacifists, they transformed very quickly into the roles of cruel disciplinarians. So the first night they woke up the prisoners at 2 a.m. to do push-ups, line up against the wall, amongst many other things. The next day, the prisoners rebelled and barricaded themselves in their cells, and in response, the guards stripped them and splashed them with fire extinguishers, and they sent their leader to solitary confinement. And what Zimbardo states here, and this is a quote by him, what we were unprepared for is the intensity and speed at which it happened, this transformation from this pacifist attitude to this cruel disciplinarian. It just happened really quickly, and unfortunately it had to be, the experiment had to be terminated prematurely due to serious concerns about the psychological well-being of the participants, the prisoners specifically. So one of them went hysterical, and then 4 others, they just basically broke down. They were experiencing episodes of rage, emotional stress, acute anxiety, and crying. So they had to stop it. He was at the beginning. He set out to do it for like 2 weeks to assess or to examine how our environment affects our behavior. So he thought, let's look at prisons. They're awful places. Why are they awful? Is it because of the people there? What's going on? So that was the whole point behind, or the objective behind the experiment. So even though it had been terminated prematurely, the conclusions were shocking. How the environment just had that strong, or maybe even the role of being a prison guard just kind of took over. And this is a quote where Zimbardo concluded that there are specific situations that are so powerful that they can overwhelm our inherent predispositions, right? So the Stanford experiment revealed how roles imposed upon people can affect their behavior, especially when you have highly stereotyped roles like a prison guard. So, I mean, how do we conquer this evil? First thing would be to be aware of it. The reality is this is a hidden or a masked evil. So it's even hidden to the people that perpetrate it, like that participate in it. They don't know. Sometimes they're not aware. It's like thoughtlessness. They're not mindful to know that what they're doing has consequences. Second thing is also taking responsibility for the role we play in propagating this evil, right? Looking at the long-term consequences so that you don't minimize the repercussions of engaging in such evil. Resisting the external forces that can overpower our sense of right and wrong. Just following the rules is not a good enough excuse to engage in this evil. And I guess it really comes down to being aware of our intentions, being mindful in the moment of what we're doing and what consequences it's going to have for us and people around us. Because thoughtlessness comes with a big price. And finally, I want to end with this question. I'd like you to pause and reflect. How able are you to spot this evil? Again, this is Dr. Aya Akeri, certified leadership coach and emotional resilience coach and mentor, credentialed by the International Coaching Federation. Please, I'd love to hear your takeaways and feedback. And you can connect with me through my website, www.drayakeri.com. Thank you for your time. And please reach out so I can help you discover your why and create a developmental plan for you. Thank you. Wonderful day.